The Consumer Price Index, or CPI, is a complete and total lie. And deflationistas like Van Meter and Jeffrey Snyder believe this CPI to be 100% accurate. In fact, I see Jeffrey Snyder tweeting about how accurate the CPI is almost every day. It is ridiculous. So the CPI now is starting to conflict with other information from other government agencies. And this is because of all the currency and credit sloshing around. There's production problems, supply bottlenecks. There was the African swine flu before the pandemic. And all these things are constituting, especially more currency and credit, and governments with politicians and bureaucrats putting rules and regulations on farmers that farmers can't produce. And all this currency and credit and lack of amount of production are causing distortions in food supply chain. And these things might not be solved quickly. Well, now this story came out recently in the last couple weeks that the UN Food and Agriculture Organization Food Price Index has jumped to 113.3 points. And the only other time in the history of the index that it has been higher was in 2008 and in the Arab Spring in 2011, when it hit a peak of 131.9. This is in direct conflict with the Consumer Price Index, and the Consumer Price Index has so many flaws, and I get asked this all the time, I don't even know where to begin with. So they constantly change the formulas. These PhD economists that have no touch with reality, they're paid propagandists. It's all economic propaganda. There's substitution, hedonics, geometric weighting. They're always finding new ways to change the formula and hide inflation. In general, for the regular CPI formula, they don't count food and energy. They don't count health insurance accurately here in the US. They don't count rents accurately. And normally, anytime a price rises too quickly in the CPI, they automatically make substitutions to remove it. And the government incentive for doing this, for lying about the CPI, and part of stagflate tax lie. And this is a major component, lying about economic data, making it all economic propaganda for Consumer Price Index, lying about inflation, lying about GDP, lying about the real unemployment rate. Do you actually believe what the government says with the unemployment rate here in the US and many other countries? There's many small businesses that aren't even being given a chance to survive, and they're not being counted in the unemployment rate. And so the Consumer Price Index does not accurately count, either at all or intentionally underreports, food and energy, health insurance, and rent. Been hearing many anecdotal stories for years before the pandemic about rents going up in every major metro area, and that was not counted. Danielle DiMartino Booth has talked in great detail in tweets and in her book, Fed Up, about how the Fed knowingly, it's in her book, in meetings in the Fed, knowingly has bad inflation formulas to underreport inflation. So why would the Fed and other governments and the Bureau of Labor Statistics, all unfortunately a conspiracy and a major component of stagflate tax lie, one of the major components of the lie component is phony government economic data, government propaganda, economic propaganda, is cost of living adjustments. So cost of living adjustments, or COLA, if the government was honest about inflation, and it was more honest decades ago, as John Williams of Shadow Stats and Chapwood Inflation Index was doing, and now the Chapwood Inflation Index website is having immense problems. If you go to the Chapwood Inflation Index website, the 2020 numbers are not up to date as they were only a couple months ago, and the website is down. So there's immense problems. I don't know if it was hacked or what. There's big problems with the Chapwood Inflation Index, but I think that reflects reality more. Now you have billionaire Bill Gates, and he's the largest private landowner here in the US. He's going to start forcing people with his agenda to become vegan soy boys. And he's probably going to restrict production of certain types of foods and try to force more males to eat to eat lots of let's just say unhealthy GMO and soy. It's going to be a mess. So the cost of living adjustments are in government's incentive to lie, because you have Social Security payments, you have government employee pension funds, all linked to CPI. And if the CPI was honest, the government would have to pay out much larger payments. And you're starting to see just overt examples of governments not even trying to hide how they're going to change the inflation formula to screw over retirement pensioners. This already happened in the United Kingdom in the last couple months. I covered this in a previous video. You can go back and look in the archives where they intentionally changed the inflation formula again. They even announced it. It was covered by their mainstream media there in the United Kingdom. They intentionally changed the inflation formula to screw over retirement pensioners out of £100 billion per year minimum in retirement benefits. And unfortunately, this is going to be happening even more so here in the US as well, as the US has just an insane amount of unfunded liabilities, depending upon how you calculate it. If you listen to Lawrence Kotlikoff, it is over 200 trillion already of unfunded liabilities, and clearly that is not counted in the national debt. And yes, I said 200 trillion. Now there's more conservative estimates for unfunded liabilities of 80 trillion, between 80 trillion and like 150 trillion, but it's just an insane number and it's not being counted in the national debt at all. But clearly the US cannot pay for it at all mathematically. Now they may try it to do this with devalued currency units and pay out nominally with stagflate tax lag, where you're getting, say, a $600 check or something like that with a Social Security check, but 5 years from now, 10 years from now, $600 is not going to have the purchasing power that it did today. Just like the purchasing power of $600 10 years ago or 20 years ago had a lot more purchasing power than it does now. Please like, share the video with friends and family, and don't forget to subscribe to the Wall Street for Main Street YouTube channel, which just crossed over 40,000 YouTube channel subscribers, finally, after many years of YouTube censorship. The YouTube censorship is getting so bad now that longtime subscribers to my channel, and I'm getting emails and messages and comments below videos and Patreon messages that people are not getting new videos in their feeds anymore who have subscribed to the channel for many, many years. So please check the channel manually to make sure that you're getting all the new videos. And I'm trying to put out more despite the long list of health problems, debilitating health problems that I'm dealing with. And also, if you can afford to do so, please chip in $5 or more per month over on my Patreon. And unfortunately, the links to my Patreon are now being blocked by YouTube, both in the links after videos. I've been checking them. They normally don't work now, unfortunately. Occasionally they do work, but most of the time for a month now, they have not been working at all either. So YouTube censorship is getting absolutely ridiculous to make sure that I struggle to pay my bills. And as an added benefit for being a patron, not only will you help me pay my bills so I can continue to put out research, content, information, analysis, and financial education with these videos, and I'm going to be doing more and more interviews with experts. I've sent out emails to a lot of big name guests. I won't name the names yet, but I'm trying really hard to get some big name guests that I've never had on before, but also articles unique for patrons behind the paywall there. And there's over 150 articles on many different topics, including precious metal royalty and streaming companies, gold miners, silver miners, oil companies, uranium miners, and other commodity-related investments. So that's something you don't want to miss. I think it's a really good value, and I'm doing the best I can to create value in terms of the videos and research and analysis, despite my long list of debilitating health problems that are very difficult for me to do any work. But I'm doing the best I can, and I'm going to keep growing this YouTube channel, hopefully in spite of YouTube censorship, and hopefully I will be able to continue to create value and grow the channel much larger in the not too distant future.